Before I go, I should say this. I'm looking forward to watching Babar Azam. I know everybody is, and I know he's a wonderful player. But I am looking forward to watching him because of the numbers he's got in Pakistan, but also because he's so stylish and wonderful to watch as a batsman.
Hello and welcome to Cricingif. The start of Pakistan series against South Africa is just around the corner. Some very exciting days ahead. South Africa, they are here in Pakistan after 14 years, two test matches in Karachi and Rawalpindi. And to talk about it, we have a very special guest joining us from South Africa. He's a former Zimbabwe cricketer and a very famous voice in cricket all over the world. Pommie Mbangwa is joining us from South Africa. Pommie, first of all, how are you and how is life in South Africa these days?
I'm okay. I'm on the mend. I had corona, Mazher, and it wasn't so good. Wasn't so healthy. I've been kind of under the weather, if I can put it that way. I know others have kind of recovered from it quite easily, and me not so. I don't know why, but apparently it affects everybody differently. It's part of our life these days, I guess, and you survive it. You thank God, and you try and carry on. So yeah, I'm kind of on that recovery path in an effort to carry on.
Well, I didn't know that you had COVID. Actually, I think somebody just tweeted a while ago. They were wishing you a recovery on commentary for England and Sri Lanka series. I don't know who was that, but I also wish you a speedy recovery, and hopefully you will get soon, and you will get perfect very soon.
Thank you.
And thanks for your time. I mean, despite having COVID, and Pommie, you have some very fond memories of Pakistan. You made your Test debut here in 1996, and then you came back 2 years later. You took 6 wickets in Peshawar Test match, and Zimbabwe actually they won that series. So how do you look back to those days, and what are your memories of playing cricket in Pakistan, and also tours to Pakistan as a cricket commentator?
Yes, I absolutely love Pakistan because of that. Every time, I think back to what Pakistan is like. To me, what comes back is that very first visit. I remember a lot about it actually, even though it is 1996, as you say, left an indelible mark in my memory, in my heart. Just that, I suppose that's going to happen, particularly for a young guy who dreamt of playing for their country, and then you get to do it, then you get to go on the field, even though it was in a foreign country. It happens, and it was a dream come true. So, as far as what I remember exactly in Pakistan, I remember how green it is in Pakistan. It stayed with me forever. Just when I think about Pakistan, I just always remember that it's very green. Wherever we went, whether it was in Lahore when you're driving from the airport, there's just greenery all over the place. And without any sort of knowledge of the subcontinent, my expectation was that wouldn't be the case. I'd been to India before. I think the year before I'd been to Chennai, then Madras Pace Foundation, I think it was called, where Dennis Lilly, Glenn McGrath, T.S. Shaker, they used to have that school for bowlers. So I had visited then, so expected it would be kind of the same, and it's not quite. So I also remember the Rogan Josh because I love it, and I fell in love with Rogan Josh when I was in Pakistan at a young age. So that's it. Food, too much food for me.
Yeah, it would be great to have you back here and serve you some more Rogan Josh, some biryani as well. Pommie, moving towards this series, the South Africa, they are here. And because of the pandemic, they have come with a pretty large squad, 20 members here, and 9 of them, they are fast bowlers. So how do you look at this combination? I mean, or any other names that you can tell us to look forward to in this test series?
Yeah, they're pretty simple, the names to look forward to, actually, and you already know them. I don't expect in the 2 test matches that will be played that South Africa, unless there is an injury, will go outside of Kagiso Rabada, Lungi Ngidi, and Anrich Nokia. I think that's that's the way they'll go. Those are the three fast bowlers that they would want to play as their first choice. In terms of who then makes up the rest of the bowling lineup, definitely Keshav Maharaj. I don't think in their mind they have spin as playing a very big role. I think they feel that Maharaj can do whatever role that is, and he does bowl long spells to hold up and in. In fact, in my mind, I think they're thinking back to what kind of attacks that Pakistan had in the past, and they'll think to Wasim and Waqar and Shoaib and all the guys who are faster bowlers who utilize reverse swing. They'll have a youngster in there in Mulder. I think they'll play him because he can bat and try and balance that attack to have five bowlers. And even though it's pace heavy, I think they expect that the pitches will be lower, and so they'll be looking to attack the stump and use reverse swing in order to get there with it.
And probably when we talk about cricket in subcontinent, the first thing that comes to mind is spin bowling. But I think that the pitches here in Pakistan, they're not as spin friendly as some other Asian places like Sri Lanka and India. So how do you look at this? Do you think that that the teams who play with more fast bowlers, they are likely to succeed more?
You would be the man to tell me about the numbers of this. But in my mind, as I think about it, I constantly try and figure out which Pakistani spinners are successful. And in the times that they were successful, did they work as two spinners together? Or did they work as one spinner? And each time I go back to, Mushtaq Ahmed, he's the best. I mean, obviously, they're great spinners before that. But Mushtaq Ahmed played pretty much by himself. And then sometimes with Saqlain, sometimes Saqlain on his own. And then now you've got Yasir Shah, who generally plays on his own as well in a Pakistan side. So I don't look at Pakistan and think the spinners are the ones who are going to do great damage, and you're going to have one at either end, and they'll be running through sides. I think fast bowlers also get their fair share if they're quick in the air and if they've got this versatile ball because of the abrasive pitches in Pakistan, and they've got to bowl straight, of course.
Yeah, and for me, there's a very interesting stat. Since 1990, and that is 20 years of cricket in Pakistan, there's not a single spin bowler, a Pakistan spinner, who has taken 5 wickets in the 4th innings. So that actually shows that even on day 5 or day 4, the pitches, they don't turn as we see them in some other places. And as you talked about the combination, I think that whenever Pakistan, they played with 2 spinners, especially in Karachi, it backfired. In 2007, it was Abdul Rahman and Danish Kaneria. Pakistan lost. 2000, when England came, there were 3 spinners, Afridi, Kaneria and Saqlain, and again they lost. So yeah, I also, I will agree with you that pace has a big role to play, especially in Pakistan. Pommie, coming towards South Africa's combination, there's one player that I'm very keen to talk about is Aiden Markram. He had a terrific start to his career, 4 centuries in his first 10 test matches, 2 against Australia. But since that Sri Lankan tour in 2018, it's nearly 3 years, and he has only and he does not have any century in his last 12 test matches. So what, according to you, has been his undoing, and do you think that he will like playing in Pakistan?
His undoing has been spin. He met up with some spin, and it was too difficult. He was unable to deal with it. Many people who go to Sri Lanka or who face up against Sri Lanka, what happens is, if you're up at the top of the order, you expect that you might have a grace period where you'll have some seamers, but it wasn't the case. And these days, generally, and I think you might have gone on that tour of India as well, where right up at the start, you're not getting fast bowlers. You might have 1 fast bowler in the side, you might have 2 in the side, but generally they could even start with a spinner up at the top. And it's a case of he came up against it, didn't know how to deal with it, and he'd get no runs. He just has had no success and has had to go away and introspect. But that happens. if you start off and you get 4 centuries in 10 test matches, look, that's an incredible start. There's only one way from there. You're only going downwards, because if you continue at that rate, then you're going to be better than Don Bradman, you know? So we have to understand that this guy started well, has the talent, and you don't start as the finished article. There are things that you've got to figure out as you go along. I personally think he's particularly talented, and the difficulties will serve him well. He might not conquer them fully. It might forever be his problem facing spin. But generally, as a guy to have at the top of the order for South Africa, I think he's the guy, and he does a decent job, and they're a good combination with Dean Elgar at the top. I think he will like Pakistan more than he would like any of Sri Lanka, India, or Bangladesh, because I think there'll be a little bit more pace on offer. Will he be able to get his pad out the way? Well, that's the question, and that will determine whether he'll go all right or not.
Yeah, we all are looking forward to him playing Pakistan, and I think that because the conditions they are more suited to batsmen, especially in Karachi. So that he might take it as an opportunity to redeem himself. Just a couple of more questions, Pommie. The one is about Quinton de Kock. South Africa, they made him captain, and I think it's a short-term option, and they're still looking at some long-term options. So how have you seen his captaincy so far, and what are the other candidates in the future?
So prior to deciding that they wanted him to just kind of be the stopgap guy, I thought they might go to a different stopgap. They've used him in the past, Dean Elgar. If they're thinking stopgap, just to relieve the Kock of the pressure, Dean Elgar has done it before. They're talking about these 7 test matches that they have in this year. They could have done that. It might be more. It might be 9 test matches, whatever it is. But they could have gone to Dean Elgar, but maybe it meant that they don't make a decision at all, which is, Quinton, just carry on. You're captain of the white ball format, and let's see what happens. So it's very much a stopgap. In terms of who the other candidates are, I think Markram is a candidate, but because of the numbers you speak of, where in the last 12 test matches the guy hasn't been able to get a score, there's not really been a certainty in the side. They couldn't then go with that as a punt to say, we think he's talented enough. We think he can, go ahead and be captain, and he will stake a claim in the future in terms of how he plays and the talent he's got. It was a difficult time to do that because the team was unsuccessful, and if you then go and pick a guy who's struggling, it doesn't make for a good decision. Certainly not at that time. He's a candidate. I think he remains a candidate. Another one who's a candidate, but because of numbers and because he's not converted his half centuries to centuries, is Temba Bavuma. They might have gone towards him. Obviously, there's a significance of that in that, a black captain, it would mean a great deal. It would also kind of parallel to it will be the political side of things that will go along. And the guy's captained his franchise side before. He's a respected member of the side. But again, at a time when the side are not doing well, you're not going to pick a guy as skipper who's not a shoo-in into the team and who's also having his own struggles at the highest level in terms of form and conversion and all of that. Other candidates, I wouldn't go towards the bowlers. There were murmurs about Kagiso Rabada. I think you don't want to disturb him with what he has to do to carry the burden of that back. And it's difficult for bowlers to be captains. I'm not saying they can't. There have been bowlers in the past who have. I mean, in your country, there have been captains, Wasim, Wakar. They did it for a long time, swapped it around and all of that, and they managed to do it. But that's in an experienced side with experienced players. In a time when you're trying to build a side and you need Rabada to be, right on song to be trying to win your game, I don't think you need to burden him with being captain as well and trying to make decisions and guide the team forward. As far as other candidates, I don't know. I don't know that there are any I would look at. The other good players, I think they play essentially good roles and they can continue to do that. But those are the men I'd look at. So So Elgar, I still don't mind Elgar as a captain. I think he goes okay. He's definitely in as a member of the side. He's probably one of the only few certainties. I wouldn't have De Kock as captain, and I understand the stopgap, no issue with it. Markram is a candidate for me, and Bavuma is a candidate for me. But all of this is about, can you be in the team? Can you make sure that you're in the team? Can you play well enough over the course of these 7 test matches that we have to say, okay, we want to put the captaincy hat on you, and we're happy with what you bring to the side and what you will be as a player for the side.
Yeah, Pommie, just one last question. This series is part of World Test Championship, even though both Pakistan and South Africa, they cannot reach the final at Lord's now. But South Africa's next series against against Australia, it will be very crucial in deciding that who are the 2 finalists at Lord's. So how do you look at this concept, and how do you look at this championship so far?
Yeah, I wish all the teams would play as much as each other. And I know that's a wish. That's why I use the word wish. Because I think if that happens, then it's simpler for everyone. It's much simpler. I don't like the idea of some series not counting, other series counting towards. I think all test matches should count to the World Test Championship. It just should be like that. And if that was the case, then, there are no real complications. The World Test Championship as a table, I still think means a lot to all the teams. So if you're South Africa or if you're Pakistan and you're playing and this goes to those points, at the end of the cycle, you don't want to be the one right at the bottom. So the World Test Championship gives it all context, and it gives everybody something to play for. And therefore, I think it's a good concept, and it's a good thing, and should continue. Hopefully, in the next cycle, we can have many more teams playing each other and ensuring that each of them kind of play the same amount.
Yeah, Pommie, I totally agree with you. But as they say that something is better than nothing, so at least now Test cricket has some context. I mean, a lot of people, they will be looking at that Australia versus South Africa series. Even though, let's say that India, Indian fans, they will also be looking at that series to know that who will be in the final. Thanks for your time, Pommie. Once again, we wish you a speedy recovery, and hopefully we will see you in Pakistan very soon as well.
Yeah, I feel strong. I'm well on the road to recovery, and hopefully I can be in Pakistan sometime soon. For what, I don't know. For cricket, of course. But I tell you what, before I go, I should say this. I'm looking forward to watching Babar Azam. I know everybody is, and I know he's a wonderful player. But I am looking forward to watching him. Of the numbers he's got in Pakistan, but also because he's so stylish and wonderful to watch as a batsman. Can I say I hope he doesn't make too many runs?
Well, he's very hungry for runs at the moment. He missed that series in New Zealand. So, he will also be looking at an opportunity to redeem himself. Thanks again, Pommie, for your time. Well done. And once again, I wish you a speedy recovery.